Welcome! You are here with Change Models 101. I'm Nicola Graham for Be Change Limited, and I thought I would like to give you the lowdown on my top 10 chosen change models throughout the last century. I would like to explain to you the history of these, how and why they were created. I'd like to give you the explanation of each model in hopefully a simple way. While we're at it, why not go for the pros and cons for each one? There's no harm in that.
And how about a case study just for you, so that you can understand if these are useful for you in your projects today. We're giving this content for free, guys. You go ahead, click and subscribe to our channel for more useful information. Let's get going. Today we're going to be talking about Duck's 5-phased model. Yeah, that's right, I said Duck's 5-phase model, and I'm not talking about the quack quack kind. No, in fact, I'm actually talking about a doctor known as Dr. Jeannie David Duck. And she created this model that we're going to be talking about today. Now, she worked for the group, the Boston Consultant Group, and she was one of their senior partners there. And the concept of this 5-phase model is that it has a structured approach to managing organisational change, but it has an emphasis on the emotional and the human aspects of organisational change, rather than just addressing what was being addressed before, which was around the strategy planning and also the execution of change. Now, she created this because essentially she recognised that we really needed to start looking at the human behaviours associated to change, right? And like a woman of my own heart, she actually wrote this all down in a book, and she published her book. Her book was known as The Change Monster. I know, I just said Change Monster. Do you know, fun fact coming up for you, she actually purposely called it Change Monster because she wanted to address this as a metaphor to describe the unpredictable challenges and the upheaval and nature of people's behaviours when it comes to organisational change. She actually linked this to describe it as being similar to having to manage a monster when it comes to the emotional upheaval that people go through when it comes to change. I mean, that's pretty strong, right? And I happen to agree with her. So let's get into it. Okay, so as we've spoken about already, the Duck's 5-phase change model is a linear approach to implementing change, but focusing on the human side of it, the human element and the change that people go through when it comes to organisational change. So the way that she designed her change model is she put it into 5 areas. And yes, I couldn't resist but draw the duck. The first stage that she speaks about is around stagnation. And this stage is actually identifying exactly what the change is and how that's going to impact people, but it tends to be in the stage where the organisation aren't really aware of the change. They don't really understand the importance of the change and the organisational change that they're going through. So what she talks about in this stage is the actions that you need to consider is to raise that awareness, but also create an urgency for the change. If you don't create that urgency early on, then people will not move quick enough. And essentially the change will happen without the people, and that's obviously catastrophic. So first one, stagnation. The second area that she talks around is preparation, and that is around recognizing that you actually have something that you need to work on through change, but also preparing for that change. So the actions that you'd look at doing in this section is very much focused into creating that clear vision, creating a strategy plan, and then creating communications around this. And that's really crucial because this is where your leadership comes into this. And making sure that they are helping communicate that is very, very important. The third area is implementation. So that's essentially putting it into action. It's, you got your strategy, you've got your way to communicate it, let's just get on with it. So your actions there is executing that plan, but also monitoring the plan and adjusting it where you need. So if communication doesn't really go through very well, if people aren't embracing the change as much as you'd like, then that's the time where you want to adjust what you're doing. Then she talks about 4, which is determination. So that is around ensuring that the organisation is committed to continue to push and drive the momentum of what you've been implementing. And that's really important because you need to push through challenges that you may face along the way and continue momentum as you go along. And The actions that you want to try and achieve in this stage is you want to make sure that you're maintaining your focus on the change objectives. Basically, make sure you're just doing it, right? You also want to provide ongoing support, so people will need support and reinforcement after the change that's happening to them, and you want to ensure that you're motivating people. Another action in this stage 4 is really important and crucial, which is addressing resistance. And resistance is a really important element to understand within change, because people will naturally resist change. And if you've seen any of my other change models, or if you look into my own model, the B methodology, you'll understand that, or you may perceive that actually people go through these different resistance due to their own fears of change. So it's really important to understand resistance. And number 5 is fruition. So they've successfully changed, and actually it's recognising the new behaviours that people have had. So that's the 5-stage DUX 5-phase change model in the 5 different sections, and that is the process that you take on. Now let's look at the pros and cons of that. Okay, I'm not going to lie, this is one of my favourite models, but let's talk about some pros and cons. So one of the pros for me is the human aspect. It really does emphasise the importance of human behaviours, and if you were to use this model, essentially what you can do within your organisation is you can reduce the resistance, increase engagement, and have a smoother transition. The second one is the comprehensiveness of this framework. It's structured, it is detailed, and it gives you an entire structure from the initiation right through to embedding the change. It's great for that. A third is its practical guidance. This gives you clear directions and step-by-steps. Again, woman of my own heart. It's easy to implement because you can pretty much follow the steps. Some of the cons for me, however, is number 1, it's complexity, right? So it can be time consuming to do this. And if you are a smaller organisation, then you may not have the subject matter expert that can actually do this for you. So it's not really going to be right for you. Another one is its rigidity. Whilst it is a great framework, if you are working in a dynamic organisation, you may struggle with how rigid this is, and that it isn't really adaptable to a little bit more dynamic approaches within an organisation. And the other one is that it's resource intensive. Okay, it's going to take time, it's going to take personnel, and it's going to take money to do this. So if you don't have that, or you don't understand the emphasis of how important that is, by the way, it's very important, but if you don't in your organisation, then it's going to be quite the achievement to get this one going for you. So let's look at a really good example as to how you might be able to use this in your projects. Okay, so now let's talk about a real life example that we can use. I'm going to give you an example of a rollout of an ERP system, okay? And I've broken this down into the 5 stages that we talk about when it comes to the DUX 5 phase. I then give you the situation and the action. So I want to go through that with you in detail. So stage 1 we talk about in the DUX 5 stage is the stagnation. So the situation here is the company have an outdated ERP system, and the employees are frustrated, there's a lack of data, and essentially they are stagnant in where they are today. The actions required as part of this model is you need to identify the issues, and you can identify those issues by doing staff surveys or questionnaires or interviews, but essentially you need to understand what the issues are. And from that you can create an urgency. And a way that you can create an urgency is you can start to suggest new ERP systems. Maybe you get some demos in, maybe you look at some ideas and start teasing and playing with the concept that you might need a new system. After that, you move into stage 2, which is all around preparation. The situation here in this company is that you've recognized that need for this change, and then you need to begin planning the change and how that's going to work for your organization. So some of the things that you want to look at here is you want to develop your vision and your strategy. You need to develop your vision and your strategic goals. So what is the vision? Why are you doing this? Let's identify that. And once you've identified that vision, you can then communicate that vision. And you can communicate that vision by sharing it into different ways. Maybe you have town halls that you want to share that with, or you can do it via email, or you can do it via meetings, but in whichever way that you need to achieve that, you need to achieve that with the right people communicating the right information to the right audience with the right channel. You also want to, at this stage, be preparing your resources. Who's going to help roll this thing out? That's an interesting topic. Number 3 is implement. So the situation here is the ERP is actually rolled out, or is being rolled out, is part of the stage. So that's when you would begin a phased implementation. Now, it might be that you look at doing a pilot, and then after that pilot you do a group, and then another group, and another group, and another group. But that phased implementation can begin. And then after that time, you can then monitor the progress of what's happening with those people. Are they embracing it? Are they coming up stuck? Is the system doing what it needs to achieve for them, etc.? And at the same time, you continue to communicate. Communication through all of these is the common denominator here. Number 4 is determination, as we spoke about. Now, this situation here is the employees are using the system, but they start to experience challenges with it. They start to resist the change. This is a really crucial part of DUC's 5 phases, because this is when reinforcement of the benefits of ERP come in. You've established them up here as part of your vision. Now you really need to hit home with the benefits of this ERP system, but you also want to offer additional training support for those who may need it. And also you want to celebrate the small wins. So an action here in that great example of the ERP system is who's adopted the system well enough, and how well are they doing with that system, and can you talk about them? Can you get them to do a case study for you? Essentially celebrate those small wins. Then number 5 is fruition. So that is now the system, the ERP system has been fully implemented and the improvements have been seen. So at this point, your actions would be to ensure that those new practices are actually embedded into everyday routines. Make sure that people are actually doing the routines they need to do in their new ERP system. Then you want to assess the impact of the ERP system. You recognise this urgency, you sold the benefits, you've developed a strategy. Did you achieve it? And then finally, you want to recognise and reward. That comes on to really recognising both the attributes of the team that's been doing it, but also the colleagues that have embraced the change as well. So that is a great example, or certainly I think it's a great example, because hey, I designed it, of a DUC's 5-phase model. So hopefully you can think about a use case for you. Maybe you're doing a project at the moment where you can start to implement this kind of this change model into your project. And yeah, who knows? You might be quacking along with me one day soon. Really just did that, didn't I? Sorry guys. Hope you enjoyed today's change model. I am Nicola Graham, as we said before, and don't forget I have my own business change model, the Build, Excite, Equip methodology. So if you are interested in learning more, then check out my website for more information. Until the next time, bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Don't forget guys, click and subscribe for more content coming your way very soon. And whilst you're at it, how about something free of charge? Yeah, that's right, I said free of charge. Sign up now, www.bechange.co.uk, where we are giving you a free change management course. That's right, the Build, Excite, Equip Foundation course, where we will educate you within 2 hours exactly why change management is crucial to project teams, but also how project teams can do this role within their existing activities. That's right, you truly can take people on that journey with you in your projects, and you can improve your project success. I promise you improved return on investment. Check it out today. Bye-bye.